everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. The Bills might be off from training camp, but no days off here on the RHRN pod. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, a day off today, but like I said, no days off for us here. You're going to be back out at St. John Fisher University on Thursday before the return of Blue and Red on Friday at Highmark Stadium, which will also be attending. But let's hop right into the topic of today's show. Two topics, really, that we're going to be discussing. We'll start with the standouts from training camp. There's an article that I posted to thedailynewsonline.com if you'd like to check it out. Really discussing 16 players from my perspective, being there every day, that have stood out throughout the first 6 days of training camp. We'll begin with Josh Allen. AJ, your reflections on Josh Allen. You were out there one day previously and just reading all the updates, watching the videos, these great throws to Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, and everybody else. Just your thoughts on his incredible start to training camp.
Yeah, you can definitely see the mechanical refinement to his game, the way he's putting the zip on the ball, fitting it into tight windows. I feel like Keon Coleman and Matt Collins are two of the guys that have really found success. And again, those are bigger targets that, you know, they get enough separation where they can get their hands on the ball and make plays, but you sometimes got to fit it into those tighter windows. So just his accuracy and precision, I would say, has really stood out, along with just the ability for him to spread the ball out like he's been doing. He's really been able to give it to Dalton Kincaid, Shakir, all these guys, Samuel, that the Bills really either had last year or brought in to kind of overhaul this new look Bills offense. I'm impressed with him. He's done a really good job with, you know, everything he's done so far, beside the 3 picks and 4 plays that I witnessed on Friday. It's been a pretty clean, like not many turnovers we're hearing about, not many interceptions, which is something with Allen that you've heard in the past at training camp, even though when he's been balling, there's been some times where the interceptions have occurred. So just overall, I think a very good start for him, and hopefully he can, you know, continue to put forth a good camp.
Yeah, those 3 interceptions on Friday. He did throw 2 near interceptions on Tuesday, but both of those ended up falling incomplete. So maybe took away from the defensive effort put forth on the field on Tuesday, which was very strong. But yeah, Allen has been very consistent, fitting the ball into tight windows to several different receivers. I think he's having his best training camp of his career. And he mentioned all the work he did this offseason, refining his mechanics and really focusing on that mechanical aspect of his game. And I think it's starting to reap the benefits here to begin training camp. Moving right along, obviously Keon Coleman, AJ, we've heard plenty about him, the rookie trying to burst onto the scene, and he's done just that. Yesterday during camp, a highlight display put on during one-on-ones against Kyer Elam, coming away with 2 touchdown grabs. And it's really been just day after day, touchdown grab after touchdown grab for Keon Coleman. And it's unlikely the Bills could have imagined a better start to training camp for the rookie, just showing that contested catch ability, showing the ability to set just watching him day after day develop that consistency, develop that rapport with Josh Allen, I think was what everybody was hoping would happen in training camp, and it's starting to materialize. Not really starting, it's materialized since day one.
Yeah, just his athleticism and, you know, his big build has really stood out so far to me. Obviously, seeing him in person for the first time, you can just see him use that athletic frame. I think his hands have been very, very good, something that some former receivers have struggled with on the Bills. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Coleman can do. He continues to work at it. And again, it's going to be about, can he become a complete receiver this year? They don't need him to be, but can he? And can he take those next steps to really refine his game and become a true, you know, alpha number 1 in this league?
And moving right along, another wide receiver, Curtis Samuel. We'll wrap 2 wide receivers into this portion. Curtis Samuel and Matt Collins, 2 new additions to this team, veteran additions. Matt Collins, not as wide of a track record in terms of his production offensively. Curtis Samuel's really produced everywhere he's been. Samuel's going to be the X factor for this offense. I've said it all offseason long. They're using him all over the field, kind of a Swiss Army knife of sorts. Great rushing ability along with some pristine route running and elite hands. And he's also showed a wide catch radius at times, particularly that catch that was posted to the Bills' social media when he went up, really a full extension up and behind him to grab that ball. It's only training camp, but thus far Samuel really appears to be putting forth that skill set that the Bills thought they would get when they picked him up off of free agency. And Hollins, a big body. He's done a lot more in terms of catching the football than I thought many believed he would with the Bills. I thought during the offseason, the talk was centered around his run blocking ability and perhaps his capability to contribute on special teams. But he's done a nice job catching the football, and he's been pretty productive practice by practice. And Josh Allen seems to trust him as well. You factor in the leadership and the energy he brings to the practice field, really high in what Matt Collins has been able to show thus far.
Yeah, all these new pass catchers, these 2 in particular, have impressed. I think with Curtis Samuel, like you mentioned, a guy that's kind of the do-it-all guy. He's also gotten work as a running back. So I think they're going to utilize that as well in one-on-one situations, see him in open space on the outside as a receiver. So there's plenty of things that really Curtis Samuel can do. I go back to the quarterbacks he's worked with that come to mind: Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke, end of prime Cam Newton. A lot of guys that just struggled. PJ Walker, Teddy Bridgewater, just kind of journeyman quarterbacks that never really figured out their footprint in the NFL. And now you get to work with Josh Allen through 6 days of camp, and I'm sure he's very excited. He was asked during his post-practice presser when I was in attendance about it wasn't that when I was in attendance. One of the early
all these days blend together during training camp,
right.
My friend.
One of these earlier days, he just mentioned that Brady and how he's really he's comfortable with him, trusts him, and will allow him to put him in any position. So I'm really looking forward to that. And bless you.
Thank you.
And Matt Collins, again, I think his potential as a run blocker too in this offense. He provides that special teams ability. So I think there's really it might not be a high ceiling for Matt Collins, but Joe DeRosa was talking about this on Under Review yesterday when I hopped on at Cover One, that the ceiling and the floor aren't too far apart, but I think he'll be a consistent guy. And I think that's what the Bills need from him. And again, he's a guy that went over 700 yards with his best quarterback in Vegas and Derek Carr. So now, again, he's got Josh Allen, so we'll see what he can do.
Moving right down the list, another wide receiver, Tyrell Shavers, really seemingly pushing Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Chase Claypool, and a few others for that 5th, 6th wide receiver role, and perhaps maybe weaseling his way in for 4th wide receiver type production. He was on the outside looking in to begin training camp, but he's really come on quickly, made a highlight reel catch near the sideline yesterday from Josh Allen. A few nice catches from Josh Allen as he's continued to work with the first team over the past few days since Chase Claypool went down. He's a former undrafted rookie. He's been with the team for a few years and really starting to latch on with this team and drawing high praise from his teammates and coaches.
Yeah, Tyrell Shavers was a guy I think that even popped last year. But with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis there, I feel like they really had that room solidified. You had Khalil Shakir, who you felt like was a lock, even though he struggled during camp to hang on to the ball. You still felt like he was a guy that they were going to keep. So it didn't feel like there was much room for Shavers to make this roster. But going into this season, I mean, what an opportunity in front of him. A former guy from Alabama. He was a top recruit coming out of high school. I think a top 15 recruit in the country. So like a little Justin Shorter vibes, but you're seeing Shavers' game really translate to the NFL, and especially in training camp the past couple of years. So if he can really, work for that, I still think MVS at this point's a lock just because of the comfortability of what he can do. And he can stretch the defense out, which can open up other things underneath for the Shakir Samuels, the Dalton Kincaids of the world. But I'm really impressed with Shavers. I think you can latch onto that 6 wide receiver spot. The less that Chase Claypool can go, the better for Shavers and his path to a roster spot. So and KJ Hamler as well. I think that the punt returning has been obviously notable with him because he's got an opportunity, but that'll really come preseason. And overall, Shavers impressed last year, and he's on his way towards impressing again this year.
And Dalton Kincaid, another, as Keon Coleman has, really producing day after day. Has kind of slowed down in recent days. I think more of the work has gone the way of the wide receivers, but that rapport with Josh Allen picked up right where it left off last year to begin training camp. Kincaid making catch after catch at various levels of the defense, something that you didn't see until his role really progressed as the season went on last year. Bills are using him in attack mode immediately to start training camp, and really impressed from Kincaid throughout training camp, and knowing how much is going to be heaped on him within this offense and all the responsibility and all the talk about 100 targets, 100 catches, and all the pressure that's on him this season. He hasn't seemed to fall under that pressure at all. He's got a smile on his face every day, really exuding confidence on the practice field, which Dawson Knox said was the biggest difference for Kincaid from year 1 to year 2, is just the outright confidence that he shows each and every day. And you see that show through on the practice field every day.
Yeah, I was listening to WGR on the way to work this morning, and they were comparing Laporta to Kincaid, and Kincaid only had 12 targets through the first 3 games last season. So I think you're going to see that really uptick. I could see him getting 12 targets even in the first game. Yeah, but I mean, I could actually see that happening. We'll see what happens. So with Kincaid, I think he's showcasing exactly what he showed in college, and that's getting open and finding soft spots and zones. And he has a burst about him. He understands. There's guys that you just watch, and you can see when they get the ball in their hands, they can get upfield so quickly. He's just one of those guys that, you can see, like with a Patty Freiermuth from Pittsburgh, who has a little bit more trouble with it, or some of these tight ends that they're like Dalton Schultz. They have good possession and they can get open, but they struggle in terms of that burst and extra yardage. I think Dalton Kincaid is just going to be a good tight end in this league. According to PFF last year, he had a higher run blocking grade than Sam Laporta did. So again, becoming a complete tight end will be huge. He's not just a wide receiver. They can put him in line and put him up against a DB. And there were a couple times last year where I thought he looked good against in the run, especially. So I think you have a complete tight end on your hands, a guy that can really elevate his game, elevate Josh Allen's game, be that safety valve on third downs. And he's showcasing all that so far through 6 days.
Staying at the tight end position quickly, the tight end 3 battle we've mentioned on this podcast. Zach Davidson is impressed throughout training camp. After recovering from that ACL injury, he's really returned with a vengeance, catching ball after ball, helping this aerial attack remain consistent throughout practice. And Quentin Morris has come on in recent days, but to start training camp, I thought it was Davidson really shining through and starting to push Quentin Morris for that number 3 tight end role. I think he's got more to offer as a pass catcher than Quentin Morris. It remains to be seen how well of a pass blocker he's going to be, and maybe blocker in the run game as well. But Davidson's certainly impressing me throughout training camp thus far.
Yeah, Zach Davidson, I think you were pretty high on him coming off offseason programs. I think you felt like he had a chance to fight for the tight end 3 spot, and so far he has. He's a guy that, like you said, has been putting it together, catching the ball, coming off an ACL injury sustained early last season. I think he's just has a lot to prove, and maybe he can take a run for Quentin Morris at that spot. So we'll see what he can do. Maybe I'll keep an eye more on him in the next couple of days here as I get the opportunity. And I'll really take a keen eye on that tight end 3 spot, because I think it could be up for grabs.
And a good question here from Roy Collins asking us to assess the Bills' rookie draft class at this point in training camp, and we'll do just that before we move on to the defensive side of the ball in our standouts. We already talked about Keon Coleman, the remaining rookies drafted by the Bills this season: Cole Bishop, Dwayne Carter, Ray Davis, Cedric Van Pran Granger, Edifon Ulofoshio, Javon Solomon, Tylen Grable, Daquan Hardy, and Travis Clayton. Cole Bishop obviously on the mend with that arm injury. We'll have to monitor his status. It's kind of been a slow go for Bishop to start his NFL career. Hasn't really popped regularly. He did make a big play before exiting practice yesterday. He was started the play at the line of scrimmage, disguised a blitz and dropped back in coverage, and did a nice job breaking up the play. But it was sad to see him go out later in practice. Ray Davis has had some issues fumbling the football, another fumble yesterday, so ball security a concern there. Dwayne Carter, I like what I've seen from him. He had a pressure yesterday with the pads on. He's showing some spunk up front against the Bills' offensive line. Cedric Van Pran Granger has worked largely with the 3rd team, while it's been Alec Anderson and Will Clapp serving as the number 2 options in terms of the center position behind new starter Connor McGovern. So a lot left to be seen with Cedric Van Pran Granger. Javon Solomon has shown shades rushing the passer. Edifon Ulofoshio, not much from him, but I did watch him make a nice play defensively. I think against the run yesterday was really a sideline to sideline play where he tracked down a ball carrier. So showing some good speed there. Tylen Grable has not looked very good on the edge. He's been beaten time and again. Daquan Hardy made a couple of plays during one-on-ones yesterday, also working in with a punt return unit. And then Travis Clayton, he's also on the mend. He missed practice yesterday. So kind of up and down for the Bills rookie class. Keon Coleman shining every day. But aside from that, there really haven't been many elite standouts throughout the first 6 days. We'll continue to watch these first-year players.
Yeah, just looking at the first three guys in this year's draft class, Coleman, Bishop, and Carter, I think those three have a very good opportunity to produce this year for this Bills team, all three of them. Now, you look at the last couple of years, in 2023, the Bills drafted Kincaid, Torrance, and Williams. Dorian Williams didn't really see that much of an impact. So I think last year you saw Kincaid and Torrance. I would say, I put this out, I remember last year, that there was not really much more of an impact than Kincaid and Torrance have had on a Bills team in terms of first and second round picks in the McBean era. I think this year there's an opportunity for Dwayne Carter, Cole Bishop, and Keon Coleman to be probably the biggest impact guys for the first 3-round draft picks. So I think you could take it even a step further. Again, with Coleman, he's shown everything you wanted. I think Bishop, the injury stinks because I think he was getting more first-team reps, more opportunity. It felt like he was kind of making a name and coming up in a way.
Yeah, it looked like he was growing more comfortable too.
Right. So that does stink because me and Joe, again, on Cover One last night, we talked about that and just it felt like he was getting there, and then that happened. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think this rookie class has some promise. Javon Solomon, like you mentioned, I saw him win a pass rusher up on Friday. So there is some promise with this class, and I've liked what I've seen so far.
John Robert, the newest safety that they did sign, Terrell Burgess, he was signed today. Also Kareem Jackson yesterday. Perhaps to bolster that position with some concern brewing with Edwards and Bishop's injuries. But we will continue on the defensive side of the ball with our standouts. But first, a message from our sponsor, Forefathers Organics. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, AJ, getting to the defensive side of the ball, the Bills desperately need a big year from not only one of their pass rushers, but they really need their top 3 pass rushers to produce this year. Greg Rousseau, AJ Epineza in need of a breakout season, both of them, and Von Miller trying to return to that vaunted status that he displayed in his first season with the Bills before he went out with that injury. It's been a great camp for Greg Rousseau. He's been one of my standouts, a former first-round pick. Pressure after pressure off the edge, number of would-be sacks. He really abused Spencer Brown a few days ago. Brown is, I wouldn't say a rough camp, but he's just going up against some of these tough pass rushers that the Bills have time after time and losing once in a while. And Greg Rousseau really had that big day the other day, while Von Miller had his biggest day yesterday, Tuesday at Bills training camp, his first padded practice, and out there for a would-be sack, working against Brown. A number of other pressures, pressured Allen up the middle and forced a quick throw to MVS down the middle of the field. It did wind up incomplete, but it was nice to see Miller kind of put the pressure on Allen to get rid of it quickly. The future Hall of Famer showing that bend, athleticism, and burst that he's been known for throughout his career. And not to say he's going to return to prime years, Von Miller. I think that's a pipe dream. You're not going to see him on the field that often, and I don't think you're going to see him game by game be able to produce sacks at that level as we saw from him when he was double-digit sack days. But if Von can get to 6, 8, 9 sacks and satisfy some of those incentives in his contract, I think that's just what the Bills are looking for.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Rousseau and Von Miller. One of my biggest questions, I should say, entering camp was the defensive end room and the edge rushers. So I think that and John Robert here, I keep seeing Von is back. Yeah, Deion Dawkins was very fond of Von and what he's seen from him so far. Obviously, lining up against him, I'm sure, on some occasions. And he said, kind of let the story play out with him. And Von is back, 40's back. Kind of just reiterated that statement over and over again. So really looking forward to what Von Miller can be. And then Greg Rousseau, a big year for him. They picked up his 5th-year option this offseason, so he'll be in Buffalo for 2 more years, but still looking for a contract. I'm sure he wants to prove that he can stay healthy, be that kind of alpha in that room. And so far, from what we've seen from him, he's really shown some signs of development and skill development as well. So I think there's a lot of hope there. We have yet to actually see it in terms of competitive regular season action, but so far through camp, it's a good sign that those two are really working well together.
And another edge rusher, Dwayne Smoot, he's shown some versatility moving inside at times and also getting some sacks on the outside. We all know how Sean McDermott and company love their versatility, and Smoot showing that versatility and showing that he's fully recovered from that Achilles injury that he sustained to end his 2022 season in Jacksonville. Seems like he's raring to go and ready to produce for this team.
Yeah, they need Smoot to be that guy. If he's going to take the reins of that DN4 job, then let it happen, because I think he's been a productive guy in this league. They need someone who can come in on obvious pass down situations, give Rousseau a blow, give Epinesa a blow, whatever the case may be, and be a key rotational piece in a Sean McDermott defense. That's what they kind of pride themselves on. So we'll see what Smoot can do if he can continue this, kind of resurgence of his career and really come together and make it happen. I'm looking forward to it.
Ed Oliver, a menace throughout training camp. He's not made as big of an impact in recent days, still denying the run incredibly well, but hasn't gotten to the passer since the pads came on. Oliver primed for another big season, coming off that incredible year he had last year, got the contract, and the Bills need him to produce. I haven't seen much from the Bills' defensive linemen in terms of the depth behind Oliver and Daquan Jones. So Bills needing a lot from Oliver, and he's certainly satisfying the high expectations to begin training camp.
Yeah, Ed's just a consistent guy for this team. Got the contract, secured the bag, and performed even to higher expectations last year. So looking forward to what the Bills can get from him this year. It's a huge year for Ed.
And then Matt Milano, obviously returning from the injury. There's been some up and down moments for Milano throughout training camp, maybe not fully recovered yet from that leg injury, showing some stretching after reps, just trying to shake out the rust from that, maybe some tightness in that leg. But I haven't seen anything that shows me that he's inhibited by that leg injury. In fact, there's been some plays where he's looked like the old Matt Milano, going sideline to sideline, slowing ball carriers, tracking down pass catchers in the flat. Still waiting to see a big pop from him. Maybe during the blue and red scrimmage, we get to see a big hit from Matt Milano. But so far, I think it's so good for Milano. You don't expect him to be fully back quite yet. And I think he's progressing well back from that injury.
Yeah, the sideline to sideline stuff from Milano is probably the biggest thing coming off the injury. What's that going to look like? And again, I haven't really seen much of him. Again, I'll get to see more of him tomorrow and Friday. But all signs, I think if the medical staff and if they're going to put him out there in full, they truly believe that he's ready to play in full. That's something that they obviously take very cautiously. And Deion Dawkins even said it. He trusts, when asked about Alec Anderson, who left practice Tuesday going for heat-related illnesses. I don't know why I said that so weird. Heat-related illnesses that they trust his medical staff. So I think with everyone involved, I think Milano is trusting what they're doing. They gave obviously the vet rest day on the first day at pads, but comes back and we'll see what he can do. I'm hoping that he can stay healthy and really put together a good season, because they do need it more than anything.
And then elsewhere at the linebacker position, during his rookie season, it appeared Dorian Williams' head was spinning a bit, but he seemed to settle in nicely to this defense. He's really been a strong run defender throughout camp. He's gotten lost in coverage a few times, but there's also been some strong plays. He came away with a would-be sack a few days ago, a near interception or a pass breakup over the middle. So Williams showing some increased knowledge of the scheme and what the Bills are asking him to do. And I think it's translated to some better production on the field throughout training camp.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Dorian. I think he probably took last year to heart, and you put the work in, and you come from Tulane that you had so much success at with over there in college. So I'm really expecting big things from Dorian. I want him to be that LB3. I think he has all the tools to be a good linebacker in this league: athleticism, speed. It's just about mastering, I would say, the playbook, understanding where to be, and getting the most out of Sean McDermott, getting the most out of what they want from Dorian.
And elsewhere on defense, the cornerback position, Another position in transition for the Bills this year. Russell Douglas and Christian Benford expected to be the starters, but Kaiir Elam has had himself a strong training camp. While it hasn't been all sunshines and rainbows for Kaiir Elam, there have been a few moments where he's been flagged for a bit of grabby play, illegal contact, pass interference yesterday during one-on-ones and 11-on-11 work, but he's just got a nose for the football. One of his weaknesses is that grabby play along the outside where he gets his hands on receivers. But what he's consistently displayed since he's come into the league is one of his strengths is creating those splash plays, grabbing those turnovers, recording those interceptions. And he's continued to do that throughout the offseason program and training camp. And it's always going to be a hot button topic when you talk about Kaiir Elam, a former first-round pick who has yet to latch on within the system, was surpassed by a sixth-round pick and Christian Benford. But I think with the new position coach, I think that served him well, a fresh look at things, and I think he's using that to his advantage. Like I said, there have been some down moments, but I think more positive moments for Kaiir throughout training camp.
Yeah, and to a lesser extent, the Josh Allen experience. That's what they say. Take the good with the bad. There's way more good. So if Kaiir can continue to produce more good than bad, and when he gets an opportunity come preseason or even during the regular season, I think there is a path for him to see a lot of snaps. But again, if the bad starts to happen more than the good, and he's getting all these penalties and lost in his spot, then the next guy we're going to talk about on this list that's really stood out has an opportunity in front of him to really step into that CB3 role. So we'll see. But again, I think Kaiir making those splash plays, gaining that confidence is huge, and we'll see if the good can outweigh the bad moving forward.
Anybody listening to Deion Dawkins' press conference on Tuesday, his biggest takeaway from training camp, it seems, is the emergence of Jamarcus Ingram. Says he just loves the way he goes about his business, really a business-first type of player. And you see that come to pass on the playing field day after day. Ingram making plays, remaining consistent, had a really nice day during one-on-ones yesterday, denied all 4 of his reps working against, I believe it was Justin Shorter twice, Xavier Johnson, and Andy Isabella. So Jamarcus Ingram continuing to grow in the system, and we've seen some lesser-known cornerbacks and some undrafted free agents of that position really come along strong in the Levi Wallaces, Dane Jacksons of the world. And Jamarcus Ingram seems to be following in those footsteps and drawing that high of praise from a player like Dawkins with his gravitas on that team. That certainly means a lot and points toward our 53-man roster projection, with Ingram making the team being a smart call at this point.
Yeah, I think Ingram has all the tools to be good in this league. Deion Dawkins said it himself: speed, physicality, athlete. That's what he's shown. He's done, again, like you said, really good in one-on-one reps, which I think is good because, again, that advantage is always to the offense and the receiver. So I'm really pleased with what I've seen from Ingram, a rotational guy that probably might not see the field much, but if you can get him to continue to play consistent football on the outside, that will probably give a sense of relief for, not only Kaiir Elam, who will maybe have less pressure on him because he's got a guy behind him. Well, maybe it might heighten the pressure behind for Elam. But again, I think for the overall cornerback room and what McDermott wants, having 4 safeties that he can trust will be very huge entering the season.
And finally, our final standout thus far during training camp. Well, at least my final standout. It is my article after all. Maybe AJ had more or less. Taylor Rapp, the safety, he hasn't really stood out in terms of making splash play after splash play, but his consistency at the back end of the Bills defense is something that is very much needed this year with the departure of the 2 veteran starters this offseason. Rapp has been locked into one of the starting safety roles, while the other one opposite him has been a rotation between Hamlin, Edwards, and Bishop, and now losing Edwards and Bishop and bringing in Burgess and Jackson out of free agency. You're going to need a lot more from Taylor Rapp in terms of his leadership, getting these guys acclimated to the system. And I think that is very much of value to this team. He seems to be a cerebral player, a player, not much emotion from him, really a even keel rock type of mentality. And I think that's going to serve the back end of this defense well as they go through this transition. He did have a nice pass breakup on day 6. I thought his best play of training camp thus far. But just his overall consistency, demeanor, I think is what's going to serve the Bills best come the regular season.
Yeah, and I think that just him being out there and starting for 6 days and you're not hearing him getting beat all the time or being in the wrong spot, I think that just in itself says that he's kind of been a standout guy. Although the highlight plays may not be in bunches, you're having a guy that's out there consistently in the right spot, communicating with the linebackers and the defensive line and getting on the right page. So that experience he brought over from last season, working with Poyer and Hyde, has definitely translated over to training camp, and his ability to really take that next step with the Bills in this upcoming season.
All right, AJ, moving on to the next portion of the show, your article from today on the dailynewsonline.com, another edition of AJ's analysis. Like I said, that could be found on our website at the Batavia Daily News or on our social media channels very, very soon. The injury bug playing into the safety room discussion, really disrupting that rotation that we saw throughout the first several days. Mike Edwards week to week with the hamstring. Cole Bishop, we don't know his status. Josh Reed reporting that he saw Bishop walking throughout the St. John Fisher facility with his left arm heavily wrapped. That arm was really dangling when he came off the field yesterday during practice. As I said, he did make a big play earlier, so kind of disappointing to see him go out, or really disappointing to see him go out considering his position on this team and trying to fight for his role. But why don't you tell the people really what you looked into throughout this article and how you think the safety position is going to start working out here over the next few days at the very least, with Edwards and Bishop seemingly going to miss at least that short period of time.
Yeah, so I think going back to Rapp, the standout that we last talked about, I think what he's done, on day 3 when I was there, had a nice interception of quarterback Josh Allen on a ball intended for Matt Collins. So that was a nice play by Rapp, bringing in an interception, making kind of a splash play. So you look at him, former 2019 second rounder, didn't see much time last year, but, was a Super Bowl champion. And I think, him giving him the nod for 6 days is obviously pivotal. Then you go down to Cole Bishop. Again, he's obviously hurt. So that, that's concerning for a guy that needs these reps, a rookie that is kind of learning the ways of the NFL. I thought he was springboarding into something, and then it kind of gets all taken away from him. So that's something that obviously is worth note. When will he get back? We'll probably get provided an injury update tomorrow regarding the injury. So we'll see what happens there. Mike Edwards, a guy that I think is just kind of a do-it-all guy, just like Bishop. I think Edwards, struggles more in the secondary, but does he, he's been out for so long and during the offseason programs and now training camp, that do you truly think Mike Edwards is a lock at this point? They gave him $2.8 million. I'm not saying that he's not a lock, but I think there's room for the two, especially I think Kareem Jackson, maybe Burgess can sneak in.
Especially considering that hamstring injury for Edwards and looking at him walk around at practice, really displaying quite a heavy limp, especially the first day following the injury, and still limping around quite considerably yesterday, although I think he did look a little bit better. Those injuries can linger, and I think Edwards might be a candidate based on his week-to-week status right now, provided by Sean McDermott, might be a candidate to start the season on IR. And like you said, that would open the door for a Kareem Jackson and Terrell Burgess to really, for the team to really make use of those free agent signings.
Yeah, Kareem Jackson, 36, entered the league in 2010. I know 36 is crazy. That's pretty crazy to wrap your head around a 36-year-old. He got released toward the end of last season, but he's still in 10 games, produced 55 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 passes defended. So he's not like some, he's a former first-round pick. He's been in the league for 15 years, and he started 193 of 203 games. Mike Edwards is the guy that started about 25 of his 50 to 60 games in his career. So, Jackson is a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing the next couple of days where they put him. Where's he lining up? Is he with the 2s, the 3s? He brings a lot of experience. And either way, regardless, I think of how this turns out with the Mike Edwards thing and when he gets back, because like you said, a hamstring injury, who knows when that could get better.
Right.
Could he be a candidate for a practice squad, or could a Burgess be a candidate for the practice squad? Just a guy that they can hone in on just in case, if Edwards does come back from that injury and they don't like what they see, because at this point they have yet to really see a lot of them in this Bill system. And on top of that, you got a rookie who has really yet to see the field and hasn't got much opportunity with the ones. And all you're stuck with is Damar Hamlin, who, again, I know he's had success, but he had 17 snaps last year on the defense. And, he's not proven to be a great player in this league. Can he become that? Maybe, potentially. But I just think with all the injury concerns on top of Damar Hamlin, who I think, if you were really confident in Damar Hamlin, do you go out and get a Mike Edwards and draft a Cole Bishop in the second round? I don't know. So with that, with Jackson and Burgess, I think there's definitely room to be more than camp bodies. shout out to Mike Bunt. If you're ever listening to this, we were talking about it last night. He was fired up about it.
And it's knocked over the computer.
Yeah, he's like that. That's what he probably did. So he, just overall, I think there is a potential for them to make the roster.
Now let's play the concern meter here. I think you're crazy if you're not extremely concerned about the safety position. Entering training camp,
right.
I liked where the Bills sat. I wasn't sure about it. Taylor Rapp still has a bit to prove as the number one overall option at the position. But I thought they had a few options that they could work through as the season progressed and really settle on a good unit back there. But now you're missing 2 out of the 4 players that were factoring into that rotation. Mike Edwards, who the team said all the plans were for him to be the starter alongside Rapp, and then he sustained those injuries during OTAs and minicamp, and now another injury during training camp. Suddenly his stock is falling considerably. You might have to be relying on Damar Hamlin at the very least for the first 3-4 games of the season, considering these injuries. You don't know when Edwards is going to come back, and with Bishop having to learn the defensive system, if he's out for a number of weeks, that would slow his progression, and I think it would be an automatic Damar Hamlin out there week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals, just considering he's the last man standing, really, and he has the most experience in the system, whereas Edwards and Bishop kind of newer to the system. Bishop completely new. Edwards has some experience playing with other teams in similar systems, but I think right now the all signs are pointing towards a Taylor Rapp, Damar Hamlin start, obviously with the injuries, but just due to the lack of time on task for Edwards throughout the entire offseason, it's not going to be a quick reacclimation for him once he's through with this injury. I think there's still some learning to do within this defense and some fitting in. So I think time will tell how long he's out, but if he's out through the preseason, I don't know how you can see him going out there week 1.
Yeah, and Sam Munson from PFF joined GR when I was listening on the way. And he just talked about, like, my concern meter right now, if I put it 1 through 10 on a scale, it'd probably be like a 5, because I think
I'd go 7.
Okay, so my reasoning for 5 is because I think McDermott's scheme really inhibits, and Sam Munson kind of reiterated this point, the safety play in this defense. I think they're not asked to do too much. They can really focus on, playing their position, focusing on receivers, helping out the corners. I don't think it's I'm not going to say a complicated system for these safeties to flourish, but McDermott and Babich have shown in the past that they can get the most out of these safeties. So now if this Bishop injury, if this is like a 2 to 4 week injury, and you're, counting on like a Jackson, like a 36-year-old that got cut last year, or a guy like, or Damar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp combination. I mean, if you're telling me Damar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, if you tell me you're confident with that going into a season, I think you're kind of crazy, because I don't feel too great about that. I get it. Hamlin's had a great offseason program and a great camp, but really what is there to be happy about? Again, can McDermott hide that? Can Babich hide that? We'll see. But again, this scheme, I think, benefits safety play, and so we'll see how it goes. So that's currently why I'm at a 5, but I think if that Bishop injury is more severe, I could, that would definitely, really heighten it, because then you're going to rely on a Burgess and Jackson, who you just signed, in early August, essentially.
So AJ at a 5, I'm at a 7 in terms of concern meter for the safety room. I think we'll get some more clarity tomorrow on Cole Bishop's injury. At least I hope that we will, and that might clarify our concern meter as well. Final order of business here, AJ. The Bills released Jack Browning, the undrafted free agent punter, entered training camp with a lot of people thinking he could challenge for the starting punter job, but it was a pretty clear win for Martin yesterday during the punting period. Martin delivered, I believe, 5 or 6 really nice punts, while Browning's were hit or miss with a shank mixed in. And Martin also held for Tyler Bass earlier this week, and Bass was perfect on his kicks. So I think that's one competition that you can chalk up to being complete. Bills have found their starting punter for the season.
Yeah, so my biggest takeaway from that is we're 1 for 53
on
our roster
projection.
So we got one down. We got one down. So that's that's huge. But again, I think with Martin holding for Bass, now going 6 for 6, and then the Browning kind of effect, missing one. I don't know if that really played a role, but like you mentioned, you saw him shank a punt, and it just felt like with the added need at the safety position right now with all those injuries, they felt like they had to. Browning, look, man, like if Martin struggles a couple of weeks and we get Bishop or Edwards back, we can re-sign you down the road.
Yeah.
But as of now, it just makes sense to really add that safety depth and, part ways with, you don't really want two putters on your roster.
All right, that's going to just about do it. But first, another word from our sponsor, Forefathers Organics.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, that is going to do it. The Bills return to the practice field tomorrow morning, 9:45 a.m. at St. John Fisher University. 9:15, we'll hear from defensive coordinator Bobby Babich, perhaps updating us on Cole Bishop's injury. Usually injury updates come from the head coach, so I'm not sure how much we'll hear from Babich, but at the very least, we'll see if Bishop is out there, if he's not, if he is, in what capacity. So some sort of update will come from Cole Bishop tomorrow, and I'm sure plenty more updates as well from the practice field. We'll be double teaming it at St. John Fisher for much of practice tomorrow. I think I might have to jet out a little bit early, but look for our updates on X and then our writing on thedailynewsonline.com and another podcast coming after tomorrow's practice. AJ, what are you looking forward to as we go into Thursday's practice and Friday's return of the blue and red? Kind of the same question I asked you to kick things off, but if you could just reiterate that.
Yeah, just the health, I think, of the safety position, and then the depth of that wide receiver room. Can anyone in the next 2 days really shine? Can I see Shavers, make a couple nice plays, big plays for his kind of development and maybe ascension into this Bills roster? So those two things, and then obviously the defensive line, offensive line in the trenches, I want to keep more of a keen eye on that because I really didn't the first day on Friday when I went. So just kind of looking at the offensive defensive line battles.
Any tips for people attending the return of the blue and red for the first time?
Any tips? I would say, try and get there early if you want to sit close. I don't know exactly when the lot's open, but I think it's about a couple hours before. So I would get there. If you want to get there close and try and get autographs, I get there as soon as possible. If you're just trying to enjoy yourself, just have fun. Not really much. There's concessions open. You can have some food, but it's basically the whole lower both hills up. Maybe
I think they're opening the upper deck this year too.
Okay, so upper deck will be open. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And again, unless you really want to get there and get some autographs and you have some kids that you want to maybe get some things signed by, just get there at 5:36. Don't rush yourself, and it's a fun day.
All right, that's going to do it right here, right now. Live Buffalo football talk. Another episode in the books. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.